This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach. Oh, I got it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Daily with Doc. My name is Becca Dukes, and I am honored to be here on Friday to bring more empowering information with Pharmacist Ben Fuchs. Now, today, I've had a lot of people ask me about a lecture that he did a few years ago called The Triangle of Disease. Well, we're going to be going a little deeper into that. And in addition to talking about the triangle disease, we're going to be talking about the trifecta of to thrive. Okay, you got two men talking about the same thing here, and I just gotta, try to pacify both of them. But folks, we're in for a treat today. As many of you know, Pharmacist Ben has been in the pharmacy industry for many decades. Okay, so a few decades, many years. And he also specializes in the skin and everything that has to do with the skin from the inside out, which is pretty important when it comes to nutrition. So he has studied nutrition in depth, and it started in pharmacy school, which is something that most allopathic doctors don't touch on quite enough. They've got some great skills when it comes to patching us all back together. But folks, we are here to empower you with tools that help you to maintain or regain the ability to thrive. And through understanding how to do that, we have to look at what is actually causing the degradation of the body. And that's what we're going to be doing. So if you were invited by somebody specific, we want to make sure that you get back with them. They cared enough about you to share this information with you. And we are a resource for an amazing group of individuals who are certified holistic health coaches, health advocates, naturopathic advocates, and folks, just people who care about people and want to see them thrive as well. My name is Becca Dukes, and as the Director of Student Services for the Institute of Holistic Health, and also a leader within the company Longevity, I am honored to be able to share what has given me my health back with you. And that's more of what we're going to be learning about today. So without further ado, if you have questions at the end of today's program and you are live with us in the Zoom, you can raise your hand. We will get to some questions. And if you're not live with us and you're watching us on one of the live streams or even a rebroadcast, we are available through Zoom at DailywithDocZoom.com, all together, DailywithDocZoom.com, Monday through Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific time, except for on holidays, like we took a break yesterday. So let's go ahead and get on to bringing to the screen my friend, my mentor, an amazing individual who is one of those people that has a heart to help others. He also has a very strong grasp of nutrition, an even stronger grasp of how the cells within the body work with or without nutrition. And he's going to be sharing some of that knowledge with us today. Pharmacist Benjamin Fuchs, hello and welcome
Becca.
to Pharmacist Fridays on Daily with Doc.
Thank you. So nice to see you. Nice to see everybody. It's all about chemistry. People always ask me, like, what people who want to be involved with health or nutrition, there's a lot of folks who really just have a passion for health and passion for nutrition. People ask me, what should they study? Sometimes kids will ask me, what should they study in college? Sometimes older folks will ask me, what should they focus on? And I always say chemistry. Chemistry, chemistry, chemistry. But that's really intimidating, chemistry, for a lot of folks. So my mission in life is to simplify chemistry. Chemistry is really how things go together. You know, me and you talking right now, we got chemistry, right? You ever say that about two people? They got chemistry. That means they go together.
Chemistry,
well.
they just work
Chemistry
well
is
together.
how things go together. That's all it is. And if you understand chemistry, you can understand pharmacy, you can understand nutrition, you can understand how the body works, you can understand cooking, you can understand painting, you can understand herbology, you can understand so many things if you understand how molecules go together. And of course, all of life is just a bunch of molecules getting together, and all the body is a bunch of molecules getting together. And I always tell people that chemistry in the body is like Tinker Toys. And I know I might have said this on our last call, and you know, I remember talking about this on my radio show a couple of years ago, Tinker Toys, and somebody called me up and said, "What are Tinker Toys?" And I realized kids don't really know what Tinker Toys are. Only us old farts know about Tinker Toys. Tinker Toys, for the uninitiated, I know most folks here know what Tinker Toys are, but for the uninitiated, they're like just dowels and rods and circles and pulleys, and they all get stuck together in different ways. Go ahead, Becca, you were going to say something?
Well, now they have connects. So the younger generations are more familiar with connects.
Okay, so connects or Tinker Toys, it's just a bunch of stuff that just gets modified. But the thing about the body is, number one, these modifications and these chemical changes that occur to the Tinker Toys, the basic Tinker Toys, are happening at this unimaginable, incomprehensible, unfathomable speed and intelligence and responsiveness. It's just mind-blowing. If we could possibly see all of the chemistry that's going on in a single cell, which is 1/100th or 1/200th the size of a head of a pin, and all the different chemical reactions that are happening simultaneously and in parallel, and with a responsiveness and an intelligence that is beyond our ability to comprehend, we would be so in awe, we'd just fall on our knees and just praise God in jaw-slack amazement at the marvelousness that is in a single cell, let alone 100 trillion cells that makes up the human body. So all of chemistry, all of the biology is about chemistry. And when we're sick at the level of chemistry. But the thing is, we don't really have to do anything to help the chemistry proceed except for provide the body with the raw materials it needs. This is what Doc has been talking about for decades. You give the body the raw materials it needs and let it run. Now, you also have to give it a clean place to do its work, and that's where detoxification and not putting toxins in the first place comes in. But between detoxification and providing the body, specifically the cells, what they need, the body goes to town and does everything on its own. We don't have to think about it, and you only have to remember the last time you cut yourself. What happened to that cut? It healed on its own. Well, the body's constantly being subjected to cuts, minor and sometimes not so minor, and the healing process is built in to the divine intelligence, the divine wisdom that allows a cell to proceed from a biochemical basis every split second that we're alive. So first of all, if you want to understand the body, you got to understand chemistry. However, from a macro standpoint, when the chemistry of the body goes awry, we experience symptoms. What I discovered many years ago was after talking to people, and as a pharmacist, I get to talk to people clinically in the pharmacy, and as a presenter and a public speaker, and as an educator, I get to talk to large groups of people. So after talking to literally hundreds or thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of people, I noticed that all chronic degenerative diseases, all patients who suffer from chronic degenerative diseases have three underlying biochemical points of breakdown underneath all of their degenerative health challenges, whether it's cancer or autoimmunity or neurological issues, movement disorders, dementias, whatever it is. There were always 3 points of bodily breakdown that substandard all of these other disease states. According to the modern medical model, we've got something like 20,000 different diagnoses. I don't remember what the exact number is, but all of them can be broken down or reduced to 3 bodily breakdowns that lead to everything else, much like diseased soil or roots or trees lead to diseased leaves. You can't fix a diseased leaf unless you go to the soil and unless you go to the root, and you can't fix a health challenge that is on top of this triangle of disease any more than you could fix the leaves or the fruit on a rotten tree without going to the soil and the roots and the trunk. So what are these 3 points of bodily breakdown that substand all chronic degenerative disease? Well, before I tell you what they are, I got to tell you this. Just like you cannot, this is so important what I'm going to say now, just like you cannot address a disease state that is secondary to these 3 points on the triangle of disease, you cannot do it, and this is why the medical model fails us. At the same time, if you do address these 3 points on the triangle of disease, all other symptoms of chronic degenerative diseases will begin to subside. This gives us tremendous leverage. I love that word leverage. You know, some people will tell us that the greatest invention ever was the wheel. I don't think so. I think the greatest invention ever was the lever. Because with the lever, you can have a small movement and get a huge result. And when you have leverage, when you have levers, a little bit of action gives you a tremendous effect. And the triangle of disease, or understanding the triangle of disease, or working with the triangle of disease, gives you just that, gives you leverage. It's a lever that will allow you to, with a small action, relatively small action, get tremendous results in terms of your health. So what are these 3 points on the triangle of disease that we need to be able to leverage to address our health challenges? And if we don't address or we don't take care of this leverage or exploit this lever, we can't. These 3 points are the digestive system, the blood sugar system, and what I call the adrenal thyroid complex. Now, I'll tell you what these 3 points are specifically, but over the last couple of months, as you know, I've reduced the triangle of disease to the 2 points of disease, or the plane of disease, just to simplify things even further. And even then, we even simplified even further to the point of disease. I'll tell you what I mean here in a second, but let's talk about these 3 points. First point is the digestive system. Clearly, the digestive system is going to be the first point on the triangle of disease because that's how things get into the body. Now, it's a little bit problematic because things have to get into the body. You can't just stop things from getting to the body because you've got to eat. You got to get resources. So the digestive system represents a little bit of a conundrum because it's a source of the entry of things into the body. And when we say the body, quick digression, when we say the body, we mean the bloodstream, the circulatory system. So whenever we say things got into the body or things are getting into the body, we really mean things are getting into the circulatory system, the blood. The blood is the life of the body. We learned that in Leviticus. Everything is distributed to all the cells. All the food is distributed to all the cells. All the oxygen is distributed to all the cells. All the other nutrients like glucose and various gases are distributed to all the cells through the blood. The blood is also responsible for cleaning everything out. So when we say things get into the body, we mean things get into the blood. There's only, for all intents and purposes, there's one major way things get into the bloodstream, and that's through the digestive system. Now, if it was just good stuff that was getting to the digestive system, that'd be one thing, but it's also toxicity that gets into the bloodstream through the digestive system. So this creates a little bit of a dilemma. The second point of the triangle of disease is the blood sugar system. The blood sugar system is connected to the digestive system in several ways. The primary job of the body is to turn food into energy. That's its primary job, is to turn food into energy. And the currency of food energy for a cell, for the most part, is glucose, is sugar. So glucose is extremely important for the blood and for the cells, and for the blood to deliver it to the cells. But glucose is also a problem. Just like through the digestive system, we got food coming in, but we also got a problem. Toxicity comes in too. With the blood sugar system, we need sugar, but sugar is also a problem because sugar is important for cellular energy. But sugar is also explosive, as anybody who's ever gotten a sugar burn can tell you. If you ever baking a pastry and a little splash of sugar gets on your skin, it burns really hot. Every once in a while, a big building filled with sugar will explode in Iowa or Nebraska. It's not really sugar, but it is very similar to sugar. It's a complex form of sugar called grains. And grain dust is very, very explosive. They always tell you not, the signs in these grain silos is they don't smoke, because the grain is so explosive, because grains are very, very small particles of essentially sugar. So sugar is super, super explosive, super, super toxic. Its explosiveness actually makes it a sort of toxin, but the body needs it. So the body has created a mechanism for keeping the sugar stable. When the sugar gets too high, this mechanism kicks in and shunts the sugar into various cells, into the liver, into muscles, and also into cells. And this system is called, this protective mechanism, biochemical system, is called the insulin system. So between sugar and insulin, you've got a very serious issue because sugar is very explosive, but it's very important. Insulin is also very important because it helps protect the blood and the tissues from excess sugar. It also feeds cells with sugar. And by the way, insulin is a feeding hormone. It's not just a sugar hormone, it's a feeding hormone. This is going to be very important here in a second, because insulin doesn't only give cells sugar, it also gives cells feeds cells vitamins and minerals and all the nutrients that a cell needs. And third of all, insulin is a growth hormone. It may be the body's most powerful growth hormone. I remember when I was doing my bodybuilding days, there were bodybuilders who would actually inject themselves with insulin to get big muscles. Farmers have been known to inject their cows with insulin to get them big. So insulin is not only a blood sugar control hormone, it's also a feeding hormone. It's not only a feeding hormone, it's also a growth hormone. It makes things grow. It makes cells divide. It hypes things up. It revs things up, revs up cells, revs up cell division, revs up cell production, it revs things up. So you got sugar and you got insulin. Sugar is explosive. Insulin is a hype you up or hype cells up hormone. It's also an anabolic or growth hormone. It's also a feeding hormone. And between the blood sugar system and the digestive system, you have a connection to every single chronic health challenge you can name. Now, the third point in the triangle is very interesting, but it's not as necessary, because if you work on the first 2 points, the third point will start to resolve itself. And the third point is the adrenal stress system and the thyroid. Now, the adrenal stress system and the thyroid are both responsible for distributing energy or turning cells on, making cells do what they do. The thyroid provides thyroid hormone, which makes cells do what they're supposed to do. Under the control of thyroid hormone, all cells do their behavior. So muscle cells, muscle, skin cells, skin, heart cells, heart, liver cells, liver, intestinal cells, intestine. All of the cells of the body do what they're supposed to do when they're commanded by thyroid hormone, which is produced by the thyroid. The adrenal system is your emergency system. So God gave us an extra kick, an extra energy kick for when an emergency happens. You've all probably heard of these memes or caricatures of a little old grandmother picking a car off of a kid under the control of adrenal hormones. Those adrenal hormones are mostly cortisol for long-term kinds of things, and then adrenaline for short-term kinds of things, energy needs. And so between adrenaline and cortisol, you have emergency stimuli for cellular behavior. And occasionally we have emergencies. However, under the control, when the adrenal hormone system is constantly kicking in other words, we're constantly in emergency mode, eventually the thyroid starts to slow down to compensate, and hyperadrenalism or hypercortisolism is associated with hypothyroidism, poorly functioning thyroid. And one of the reasons why we have such a hard time dealing with thyroid disease is because the thyroid, the activities of the thyroid are secondary to the adrenal glands. And by the way, there's other adrenal hormones. There's one in particular that really wreaks havoc on the thyroid called estrogen, female hormone. And that's another adrenal hormone that needs to be addressed. Now, I don't want to talk too much about the adrenal thyroid complex because it gets a little bit confusing, although it's important to understand, because once you get hypothyroidism, you have the jumping off point to not only all chronic disease, heart disease, cancer, autoimmune disease, nerve disorders, movement disorders, dementias, immune issues, everything, including elevated cholesterol, by the way, are all associated with hypothyroidism. Dr. Broda Barnes wrote a book in the 1970s or 80s called Hypothyroidism, the Unsuspected Illness, where he linked hypothyroidism to all other health challenges. Now, he just named some specific, but I'm telling you that every single health challenge you can name has an element of hypothyroidism. What's worse is the thyroid regulates the intestine. So once you're dealing with hypothyroidism, you're going to be dealing with more intestinal problems, which will lead to more blood sugar problems, which will lead to more cortisol and hypothyroid issues, which will lead to more digestive issues. And you get this downward negative feedback loop, this downward spiral of disease. And this is where people who have chronic degenerative diseases are living in. They're living in this downward spiral of disease that starts with the digestive system, proceeds to the blood sugar system, the cortisol adrenal, the adrenal thyroid complex, and then on the digestive system, and on it goes. And this is where people are living, and this is why they can't get better, is because they're in this circle of disease, and instead of trying to deal with their health challenges at the level of the triangle, they're dealing with at the level of the leaves by taking care of the heart with beta blockers and calcium channel blockers, or taking care of the movement disorders with Cinemat or carbidopa or dopamine kinds of drugs, or taking care of the movement disorders with anti-inflammatories, or taking care of the depression with antidepressants, et cetera, et cetera. They're trying to deal with the fruit without dealing with the root. You can't fix the fruit until you get to the root, and the root is the triangle. So here's where it gets really tricky and interesting. This downward spiral of disease, the digestive system, the blood sugar system, and the adrenal thyroid complex, begin very early in life. In fact, for many people, it begins in utero, in the womb. And Doc is always getting heat for saying one of the most brilliant things that he said a lot of brilliant things, but one of those brilliant things Doc has ever said is there's no genetic diseases. And all of a sudden, everybody freaks out. What do you mean there's no genetic diseases? Blah, blah, blah. My cousin has cystic fibrosis. My mother has multiple muscular dystrophy, this, that, and the other. What Doc means, and Doc's on the call, so I don't mean to paraphrase you, Doc, but you know what he means is the genetics are, as the genetics are developing in utero, they need nutrition. They need a healthy environment. The genes are responsive to the environment that the mother, that the baby is living in, that the mother is providing for the baby. So everything is genetic, but the genetic disease itself is caused by some kind of deficiency or some kind of toxicity that's in the mother. We want to blame the gene. What Doc is saying is we have power here. We have control here. We can do things. This is really longevity's message, is we have control. This is not like, oh, it's genetic. Oh, it's hereditary. Oh, my mother had diabetes, so I'm going to have diabetes. That's not what this is. We have control over the body by providing it with the raw materials it needs. But here's the thing. We don't know this. And for many parents or many babies, their parents or their mother was not addressing her nutritional needs or her cleanliness needs, or detoxification needs, if you will. So the baby came out, and in the utero, compromised at some level, and oftentimes that compromise is at the level of the intestine. The intestine is where the immune system lives, and the intestine is where what we now call the microbiome lives. And I say what we now call because 30 years ago, nobody was talking about the microbiome. Today, everybody's talking about the microbiome. When I first started studying the microbiome in pharmacy school, there was hardly any information about it. I remember going to the library in the 1980s trying to find information about the microbiome. I couldn't find anything. I knew about it. We learned about it in pharmacy school, but I couldn't find any information. Today, you go on Google and you get thousands and thousands of papers on the microbiome. When a baby is born, it's supposed to come out of the birth canal. And as it's coming out of the birth canal, it gets coated with bacteria. That coating of bacteria, as the baby's passing through the birth canal, goes into the baby's mouth, goes into the baby's nostrils, goes down the baby's digestive tract, and makes a home in the intestine. This is what's supposed to happen. I'll tell you why it doesn't happen here in a second. After that, the bacteria implant in the baby's intestine, and a system kicks in, one of the most incredibly powerful nutritional systems on the planet kicks in, and that nutritional system feeds those bacteria and feeds the intestinal cells where the bacteria are going to live. And the whole intestinal environment is supposed to be sustained and nourished and it's supposed to proliferate using this powerful, powerful nutritional source, which is likely the most powerful source of nutrition on the planet, which we should all be enjoying, and which we all can enjoy. That substance is called breast milk. Breast milk, one of breast milk's main job is to nourish the intestine and the bacteria that live in the intestine so they can proliferate. However, to have the right kind of bacteria to coat the baby as the baby's coming out of the birth canal, the mother has to be healthy. And we know lots of moms are having babies who aren't healthy, especially at the level of the digestive system, or they have immune activation, or they have dysbiosis, or they have SIBO. Number two, the baby is supposed to get coated with bacteria as he passes through the birth canal, but 30% of babies don't pass through the birth canal. They're born cesarean section. They take them out, and they don't get that bacterial bath. And by the way, the number's 30% today. It's probably close to 50% of our customers. and of our clients who are older. It might even be more than that. I venture to say that most of the people on this call are somehow compromised at that level because they were born cesarean. But even still today, 30% of babies are born cesarean section. So immediately you've got a baby who's going to be compromised, and they're just a newborn. They just came out of the womb, or they just came out of the belly, as the case, whatever the case may be. Then you have breast milk. And 30% of babies aren't breastfed, or aren't more, and even more aren't breastfed long enough, or breastfed for moms who are incompetent, nutritionally incompetent. So now you got a baby who's just born, and he's already started off his life with digestive issues. You can tell that your baby has digestive issues by something called colic. Colic comes from the word colon. Colic is a colon issue. You can also tell that you got a baby who's impaired at the level of the digestive system by acne or bumps on the face, or also sometimes dermatitises, rashes, or eczema. I remember when I was in the pharmacy, I would have to make baby Zantac. Zantac is an antacid for babies who had, for adults who had acid reflux and GERD. I was making it for babies who were like a month old. I was making literal ulcer medicine and antacid medicine for these babies. And it never dawned on anybody that this baby is dealing with digestive health issues, and it's a baby, so where do the digestive health issues come from? It's not eating anything but breast milk. It's coming from problems at the level, at the birth level. Okay, so now you got a baby's colicky. He's crying all the time. Remember, the digestive system's impaired, and the job of the digestive system is to turn food into energy, so he has an energy problem. So this baby is constantly cranky. He's low energy. What do we do when a baby's cranky and low energy? We give him or her a popsicle, or a glass of orange juice, or applesauce, or apple juice, or fruit juice, or pear juice, or ice cream, or Gerber's baby food, or even breast milk, which is high in sugar. We give them some kind of sugar. For the most part, it's not breast milk. For the most part, it's processed sugar. And so that helps the baby for a little bit. And then, because the body has the system for controlling sugar, insulin kicks in, pulls the sugar out, the baby crashes. We give him some more applesauce, some more apple juice, some more pear juice, because he's colicky. That shuts him up for a little bit. And this this high blood sugar, low blood sugar roller coaster that we all live with starts to kick in for the baby. And this is why type 2 diabetes is now called type 2 diabetes when it used to be called adult onset diabetes. They had to change the name because little kids are getting it. And these little kids who are dealing with this high blood sugar, low blood sugar roller coaster are dealing with all the health challenges that adults used to have when they had adult onset diabetes, including problems with their weight, problems with their skin, inflammatory issues, even things like type 1 diabetes and autoimmune diseases. Once you have messed up disturbances at the level of the blood sugar, the emergency hormone system kicks in. That's where cortisol kicks in. High blood sugar leads to excess cortisol because high blood sugar is a stressor for the body. Low blood sugar leads to high cortisol because low blood sugar is a stressor to the body. That slows down the thyroid, it circulates back to the digestive system, the blood sugar system, adrenal thyroid complex, et cetera, et cetera. And the mechanism is very fascinating. I find the mechanism very fascinating, but you don't need to know it. The only reason I'm telling you this is so you can see how this whole thing develops. And also, if you're a mom, please don't give your kids apple juice and pear juice. And please don't let them do a cesarean section unless you absolutely have to have a cesarean section. And moms, it's extra important that you get on the Mighty 90 essential nutrients. And moms, it's extra important that you work on digestive health, particularly on the microbiome by using I-26 and by using your nightly essence and all the other digestive support supplements that Youngevity has. So this is the triangle of disease, these 3 points of triangle of disease. The good news is that by addressing these 3 points, even addressing the 2 points on the triangle of disease, all of your health challenges can begin to resolve themselves. And that's why I always say the first thing you do with a chronic disease is you stop the bleeding. Right? If you get into a car accident, they got to fix, God forbid, and they got to fix your bones, and they got to stitch you back up. The first thing they do, they stop the bleeding. God forbid you're in you're in the military and you get shot up or whatever it is. The first thing they do is they stop the bleeding. If you have a chronic degenerative disease that's long-term, that's going on, that's not resolving, and think about the term chronic degenerative disease. A degenerative disease is the exact opposite of what the body is built to do. The body is built to regenerate. So if you're dealing with a degenerative disease, something is getting in the way of the body's natural behaviors, natural activities, natural biochemical processes, which are all regenerative. If you have a chronic degenerative disease, you work on the first point of the triangle of disease for two reasons. Because not only, as I said earlier, not only does the intestine, or is the intestine, the source of toxicity into the blood, but it's also the source of nutrients into the blood. The intestine is where vitamins and minerals and fatty acids and amino acids are absorbed. So if you have inflammation at the level of the intestine, not only is toxicity going to get in through what's called a leaky gut, but now you're going to be suffering from starvation, functional malnourishment, even if you are eating correctly. This is why supplementation is so important. So you work on the digestive system for two reasons. Number one, so you can stop the bleeding, and number two, so you can get some nutrients into your system. How do you work on the digestive system? You stop eating. That's called a fast. And everybody always has questions about fasting. Fasting is very simple. You stop eating. So it shouldn't be that complicated. If you could take your supplements if you want to take your supplements, but if you miss a day of your supplements, it's not the end of the world either. Just drinking water. Several things happen when you fast. Number one, what happens is fasting turns on detoxification at two levels. It turns on detoxification in a macro sense out of the digestive tract through the bowels, and it turns on detoxification at the cellular level through a process called autophagy, where cells clean them, where the body cleans itself out. I always make the analogy of a self-cleaning dishwasher, where you run your dishwasher without dishes in it, it cleans itself out. You run the body without food, or the digestive tract without food in it, and it cleans itself out. So you've got autophagy, and you've got cleaning out through the bowels. You also give the digestive system a break. You give the digestive system a rest. Think about it, most people haven't had their digestive system rest their whole lives. For many of us, we have every 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, we're eating something. Eating also slows down the process of, or the movement of food through the digestive tract. And we talked about this before, there's a neuromuscular complex called the MMC, the migrating motor complex, that propels food through the intestine. When you stop eating, the migrating motor complex kicks in. When you eat all the time, the migrating motor complex slows down. This is one of the causes of chronic constipation. Also, when you focus on the digestive health and you have your client fast, you also want them doing, or yourself if it's you, you also want them when they start eating again to start paying very close attention to what they're eating. Fasting gives you the benefit of making your symptoms more profound. One of the interesting things about the brain is it tunes things down, or turns the dial down, or turns the volume down on things that happen all the time. So if you're, I went and watched fireworks yesterday. I haven't done that in a long time, but you know what? I'm not going to do that again, because as pretty as the lights were, holy cow, the noise. For some reason, I was right up close to, my friend wanted to go up close. The noise was awful. I don't know how people could do that. There were all these little kids there with this explosions going on. But I did notice that after about 15 minutes of these explosions, it started to get quieter. My ears adjusted to it, and I didn't notice it as much. This happens sometimes if you go to a concert. I remember when I grew up, I grew up in New York near JFK, and literally like a mile and a half from JFK, and there were planes coming around all the time. We stopped hearing them, stopped noticing them. And people would, when they came to visit me, they say, "How do you live like this?" I didn't even notice the planes, because the brain is so beautiful, the body's so beautiful, it turns down things that are extreme, so we don't have to deal with them all the time. Well, the same thing happens when you have symptoms, digestive symptoms, or really any symptoms. We don't notice them. Fasting makes those symptoms more clear, more profound, more dramatic, more obvious to us. When we stop eating and then we start eating again, we're going to notice things that we didn't notice before. So fasting cleans the body out. Fasting, or cleans the bowels out. Fasting helps the body clean itself out. Fasting gives the body a break, the digestive system a break. And fasting also resensitizes your body to symptomology. So fasting has many, many benefits. It also has anti-inflammatory benefits. So for people who are dealing with an inflammatory health challenge, they'll notice that when they fast, their symptoms start to resolve. Because fasting, or eating in general, I'm sorry, not fasting, but eating in general, let alone eating something that we have a problem with, causes inflammation. It's called postprandial inflammation. And even lettuce can do it. The immune system kicks in when we eat anything. But if we eat ultra processed food or we eat a food that we're having an issue with, it's even worse. So people who have fibromyalgia or arthritis or autoimmune pain or multiple sclerosis or any other symptoms will notice their symptoms start to get better when they stop eating, because their immune system is not going to be activated. And then finally, fasting and doing a food diary where you watch your foods and notice the foods you're eating gives your patient control over their disease process. They start to see how they have control. Anybody who's dealing with a health challenge out there who's listening, or anybody who knows somebody who's dealing with a health challenge, can tell you that one of the most distressing aspects of a chronic degenerative disease that you're going to a specialist for, or you're going to a doctor for, is that it's unknown. It's mysterious. We have no idea what's causing it. We don't see a cause and effect connection. We don't see the cause to the effect. It just looks like things are happening. And we hear this all the time. I know I do, and I'm sure you guys do too. People believe that they just got hit with their Parkinson's, or they just got hit with their MS, or they just got hit with their fibromyalgia. I was just sitting there minding my own business, watching the TV, and all of a sudden, boom, I got Parkinson's disease. Just like that. This is how we think. We don't see the connection between our lives and our symptoms, between our behaviors and how our body is showing up. So this idea of fasting and doing a food diary gives the patient a sense of control, a sense of power. I can't tell you how many times I've had a patient say to me, "Oh my God, I can't believe every time I eat bread, my Parkinson's symptoms get worse," or whatever it is. This is an aha experience that gives your patient a sense of control and power over their lives. And remember, we're not just here to help people with their health. We're here to inspire people, not just to help them with their health, but to inspire them to take care of their health. And this gives the patient a sense of inspiration and power that no doctor will ever give them. In fact, the doctor does the opposite. There's nobody that ever feels more empowered when they go to a doctor and get put on 10 different medications, or told they have to have some kind of surgery, or they just have to live with their symptoms because there's nothing they can do because it's idiopathic and their mother had it and their grandmother had it and now they have it. So this sense of power is so important, and we want to look at ourselves as inspirers. That's really what we're missing, not only in health, we're missing that in life. As a culture, as a society, we're missing inspiration. Longevity gives us the ability to be inspiring, not just with products, but also with information. And there's no more inspiring information that you give a patient than to have him see how his symptoms are related to something he's doing. And just like the old joke goes, guy goes to a doctor and says, "Doc, it hurts every time I do this." So the doc says, "Well, don't do that." Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. You can see if you bloat every time you have ice cream, or your arthritis pain gets worse every time you have gluten, or your skin breaks out every time you have beans, don't eat the gluten, don't eat the ice cream, don't eat the beans, whatever. You have some control and power. So it vests your patient. It also assures you as a practitioner, as a healer, as a therapist, as a helper, that your patient's going to be vested in their own health process, that they're going to participate. Because a patient that doesn't participate is very difficult to deal with. They're going to blame you. They're never going to blame themselves. So you want your patient participating. And thirdly, it shows your patient that you know what you're doing, because they're going to start to make connections that their doctor didn't make, that nobody made for them. They're going to start to make connections. So for all these reasons, fasting and doing a food diary become very important, and then eliminating problem foods. Simultaneous with that, you got to work on digestive health with digestive health supplements, and Longevity has the most comprehensive and well-rounded digestive health supplements that you're going to find any multi-level company. And let me tell you something. There's a lot of multi-level companies out there. There's a lot of multi-level companies that have nutritional formulas, this, that, and the other. But nobody has the kind of comprehensive, well-rounded nutritional formulations that cover every single health challenge you can name and every single system of the body as effectively as Longevity does. And that's really why Longevity's been around for 27 years. Because really, when you come right down to it, while Longevity has certain exotic formulations, Restart Your Life, for example, the new Life Force products, right? There's some exotic formulations. Longevity's giving you the basics. It's giving you the fundamental mighty 90 essential nutrients that everybody needs, plus fundamental nutrients for the digestive system, as well as for the blood sugar system and the adrenal thyroid complex. This is why, this is what accounts for longevity's longevity, is that it's got the basics that every human being needs. And there's a lot of people out there who still don't understand that these are the basics that they need. These are our potential customers. So a fast food diary, and then the digestive health supplements. I absolutely love the I-26. I'll tell you about that here in a second. I know we've talked about it before. And the Nightly Essence. I've been recommending the Nightly Essence since the beginning, really. In fact, I ended up meeting the guy who formulated the Nightly Essence many years ago, and he said, Ben, since you've been talking about the Nightly Essence, we can't keep it in stock. And I know why, because I talked about it everywhere I go, and people get on it. And it is a life-changing, although these days a lot of people know about probiotics. For people who don't know about probiotics, it's a life-changing nutritional supplement once you start using it. And then there's the Ultimate Microbiome, which was formulated by Dr. Joanne Conway. Probably, or I don't say the most, but one of the most multifunctional, inexpensive, and beneficial nutritional supplements, dietary supplements that longevity has, is the Ultimate Enzymes. The Ultimate Enzymes help you break down foods. When foods are not broken down properly in the stomach, they can form particles that can leak into the blood. And this is one of the reasons why people get autoimmune diseases, among other inflammatory health issues. So digestive enzymes can help you break down your food more effectively, so they can be processed at the level of the intestine, and so you can get more nutritional value from your foods. And when you take your Ultimate Enzymes on an empty stomach, they help clean the blood. They have blood cleansing effect. And this is, all disease is cell disease, as we like to say, but all cell disease is a function of dirty blood, and the dirty blood is coming in through the digestive system as well as the blood sugar system. Now, we also have a product called the Daily Digest, and not Daily Digest. Is that what it's called, Rebecca, the Daily Digest? It's called...
There is Daily Digest, yes.
Okay, there's the Daily Digest, which are little packets, but there's another one, the
Digest FX?
No, not the Digest FX, the kit. There's a kit that has a bunch of different digestive supplements in it.
That's the Ultimate Daily Digest.
Oh, that is the Ultimate Daily Digest. Okay, so the Ultimate Daily Digest. And then there's also, there's one more that I wanted to talk about here, which Dr. Arias's Liver Cleanse. Dr. Arias's Liver Cleanse is not exactly a digestive support product, but because the liver and the gallbladder are such functional parts of the digestive system, I consider them to be digestive supplements. They're not going to necessarily help you process your food more effectively, but because they'll clean out your bile, and we've talked about bile in the past, is the most underappreciated fluid in the body, is critically important, not just for digestion, but also for detoxification. Let me just hit that point real quick. If you have your gallbladder taken out or you have an issue with your bile, you're not going to clear your drugs out more effectively. That means the more drugs you're taking, if you're missing a gallbladder or have a bile problem, the more toxic you're going to be, because bile is responsible for cleaning out toxins. Bile also helps clean out old hormones, among other things. Bile is part of the detox system, and that's why Dr. Arias's Liver Cleanse is so important. And let me just say this real quick digression here, because people always ask this. Are these nutrients going to interfere with my medication? My doctor said this will interfere with my drugs. First of all, set aside the stupidity of asking if your nutrition is going to interfere with your poison. That is crazy to me that anybody would even ask that question. The fact is that your nutrients will make your drugs work better. Nutrition will make your drugs more effective so you can use less medication. Nutrition will allow you, nutritional supplements, the Longevity Mighty 90 nutritional supplements, the Healthy Start Pack and all the other various packs will allow you to wean yourself off your drugs more quickly, and will allow you to lower your dose as soon as the nutrients kick in. So you'll be able to lower your dose and ultimately wean yourself off your meds. So not only do nutrients not interfere with your drugs, they'll make your drugs work better. And if your doctor says that vitamin E will thin your blood and we already have you on a blood thinner, we can't have you take vitamin A, you say, no, doctor, I'm going to use my Ultimate EFAs and my vitamin E. You lower the dose on the poison. And that's how you handle that. So, and that was a digression, but I had to get that point out. So you work on the digestive system. Right away, you're going to feel better. Right away, you're going to feel better. Right away, the other symptoms are going to start to resolve. And the longer you stay on these digestive health supplements and work with these digestive protocols, the fasting and the food diary, the more relief you're going to get. Then you got to work on the blood sugar system. The blood sugar system is also a place where the blood becomes toxic. All disease is cell disease. All cell disease is preceded by dirty blood. When I say dirty blood, I say that just because it sounds graphic. And I want really people to get the image of a sewage pipe that's spewing sewage into Lake Erie. That's really the image that we want to have. But what we're really talking about when we say dirty blood is we're talking about clotted blood, sticky blood, coagulated blood. The blood is an immune organ. The immune system is carried in the blood. What is the immune system? It's the inflammatory system. So not only does the blood get activated at the level of the immune system, and I'll show you how that happens in a second, but it inflames. You have inflammation in the blood. Dirty blood is inflamed blood. It's blood that's all sticky and cloggy and isn't moving the way it's supposed to move. When the blood circulates through the body, it circulates through the connective tissue. And as it's circulating through the connective tissue, which you think of like spider webs, as it's circulating through the connective tissue is actually filtering the blood. The connective tissue is the great dumping ground of blood toxicity. This is where autoimmune diseases and immune diseases in the connective tissue occur. And I want to digress on the connective tissue too much, but Doc is the connective tissue doc. And one of the first things that got my attention when I started listening to Doc, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie, was the pig pack and this whole idea of building the connective tissue using organ meats and bone soup and cartilage and eating bone soup and cartilage. But it's all, the connective tissue itself becomes broken down toxic through the blood, and the blood becomes toxic through the digestive system and the blood sugar system. So digestion and the blood, digestive system and the blood sugar system are the source of the dirty blood, unless you're injecting things, which is why you don't want to inject anything into your skin unless you have no options. Injecting anything through your skin should be a last resort. So the digestive system and the blood sugar system are how the blood becomes toxic. The toxicity inside the blood gets dumped out into the blood. It gets dumped out into the connective tissue. It gets dumped out into the glands. It gets dumped out into the skin. As it's getting dumped out, it's creating immune reactions in all of these parts of the body. This is where autoimmune diseases come from. And the next time some doctor tells you we don't know what causes autoimmune disease, you tell him to listen to this video, or you can tell him yourself and say, doctor, maybe I can help you with this. This is how autoimmune diseases happen. And it's just biochemistry. It's just logic. There's also cells. This is another very important point. There's also cells that live, immune cells that live in the connective tissue. These immune cells also live in the intestine. These immune cells also live in the blood. They live throughout the body. They're probably the main source, their main residence is the intestine. When these cells become disturbed, they release chemicals, one in particular. These cells, by the way, are called mast cells, M-A-S-T, mast cells. Mast cells live in the intestine, they live in the blood, they live in the connective tissue. They're a type of white blood cell, and they're packed with a molecule called histamine. Yes, histamine, the same stuff that causes hay fever and pollen. It's made by your body and stored in mast cells. When these mast cells become activated through toxins that are getting dumped out of the blood, they release their histamine. And histamine is linked to every chronic disease there is. Every single chronic disease, excess histamine. High levels of histamine. Histamine is also found in foods. There are people, as we talked about on our last call, who can't wear a bra strap, or who can't go out in the sun, or every time they take a shower, they break out, or they have rashes, heat rashes. That's all classic signs of histamine. There are people who break out no matter what they put on their skin. Everything I put on my skin makes me break out. There are people like that. Classic example of excess levels of histamine. Too much histamine can cause anxiety issues and problems with sleep, insomnia issues, and problems with rosacea and skin issues and dermatitises and sensitive skin. In fact, one of the ways you can tell you have a histamine problem is by writing your name on your skin with your finger. And if it raises up, you got a histamine issue, because histamine makes things swell. Histamine causes things to causes you to itch and runny nose. Histamine is not only produced by mast cells, which are activated by toxins in the blood, but histamines are also produced by bacteria that live in the intestine. And so histamine can get secreted into the blood right through a leaky gut. There's also mast cells in the intestine that get activated by these toxins. So you can see where all of these diseases are related to the blood and to the blood sugar system and to the digestive system. And if you don't address these points, you can't take care of the cancer or the heart disease or the autoimmune disease. But if you do address these points, all the other symptoms will start to resolve themselves. Now, blood sugar is itself a toxin, and that's why the body has to control it, because it's so darn explosive. You know, you have about 5 liters of blood, a little over a gallon of blood. In that little over a gallon of blood, if you're healthy, you have a teaspoon of sugar. That's a healthy amount of sugar, even less, roughly a teaspoon, probably less than a teaspoon of sugar in that gallon of blood. Well, you drink a can of Coke, you now got 12 teaspoons of sugar. You have cereal with some sugar on it for breakfast, you've now got another 8 to 10 teaspoons of sugar. You have a donut or a Danish with it or a glass of orange juice, you got another 7 or 8 or 9 teaspoons of sugar. There's only supposed to be 1 teaspoon of sugar in the blood. Any more than that is considered to be an emergency, and the body has to pull that sugar out of the blood. When sugar levels go high and they're not controlled, over time the body stops controlling. Remember that mechanism where the body turns down the dial on the fireworks or on the noise or on the symptoms also happens with sugar. The body turns down the sugar response. This is called insulin resistance. It's when the sugar response is turned down. Doc and Rebecca just wrote a great book about that. When you have insulin resistance and the body turns down the dial in insulin, you have what's called everything syndrome. I call it everything syndrome because its real name is metabolic syndrome, right? But I call it everything syndrome because everything is metabolism. So metabolic syndrome affects every part of the body, and it's secondary to elevated levels of sugar and elevated levels of insulin. Elevated levels of sugar also burn blood vessels. They burn blood vessels in the eyes. They burn blood vessels in the toes and in the fingers. They burn blood vessels in the kidneys. They burn blood vessels wherever you have tiny capillaries via a process called glycation. Glycation is the burning, the sugaring, the caramelizing of very, very tiny blood vessels. This is where kidney disease comes from. Elevated blood sugar, chronically elevated blood sugar is associated with eye diseases, glaucoma and blindness. It's associated with amputations of the extremities. It's associated with poor blood flow to the extremities. It's associated with a horrible health challenge called peripheral neuropathy, which is a classic problem that people who have blood sugar issues suffer from. And by the way, I call blood sugar issues dysglycemia, not diabetes. Dysglycemia, which means messed up blood sugar. So you can see everything we deal with, every health challenge we deal with involves the digestive system, the blood sugar system. I didn't get to the adrenals and the thyroid because if you work with the digestive system and the blood sugar system, everything will settle down. You'll have to fine tune eventually. But for most people, it's like sculpting, Michelangelo sculpting the David. He didn't start off by sculpting the nose and by sculpting the hands or the fingers or the fingernails. If you've ever seen the sculpture of David, you can see the veins on the hand. It's so incredibly precise and sophisticated artistry that Michelangelo did, but he started with a big block of clay and he hacked off big chunks of the clay. And that's what working on the digestive system and the blood sugar system is like. It's like hacking off big chunks of clay. Patients will get better, faster, so fast they will think you're a god. They'll think you're a hero. They won't want to be without you as a resource, and that's a good thing. You can be their coach through the whole process. Now, eventually, you're going to want to fine-tune things, and we have lots of ways to fine-tune things, but for the vast majority of people, fasting, food diary, elimination diet, ultimate microbiome, ultimate enzymes, daily digest, all of the longevity digestive support, going ketogenic or paleo, restricting your intake of fast-burning carbohydrates and grains and processed foods and ultra-processed foods, getting on the sweeties, which to this day is one of the most important, probably the most important blood sugar stabilizing supplement you could ever use, including the Healthy Blood Sugar Pack, the Ultimate Selenium, which is very important for the production of insulin, the Ultimate MSM, which is a source of sulfur. By the way, sulfur is ridiculously valuable, and common nutritional deficiency, a commonly found nutritional deficiency. The Ultimate MSM is important for helping the body make insulin. Also, What else? There's a couple other ones. The ultimate niacin is part of something called the glucose tolerance factor, which works together with the sweeties. Beyond Tangy Tangerine has a full spectrum of the B vitamins, particularly a very important one that's very important for helping the body process sugar. Restricting your calories is also very important. And I mentioned the ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet is an awesome diet. Unless you have like full-blown liver failure or serious problems with fat metabolism, the ketogenic diet is the ideal way we should be eating. The ketogenic diet, as everybody knows, is a diet where most of your calories come from fat. Not just any fat, not French fries, not, a pizza. The fat you're looking for is from eggs or from avocados or from fish or your ultimate EFAs. Quality fats, and 80% of your calories in the ketogenic diet, roughly 80%, should come from these quality fats. Doc talks about eating 12 eggs a day. And one of the things about eating that many eggs, I don't know about 12, that's quite a bit, but if eating a lot of eggs is the fats. Make no mistake about it. The fats in eggs are God's most important source of lipids, of not just fats, but small fatty particles or fatty nutrients, like things like carotenes and also phytosterols and phospholipids. So eggs are important, very important food for a lot of things, but especially for fats. Don't overcook your fats. And Doc has been saying this for years, and he's right on. You do not want to cook your fats. You don't want to fry your fats. You don't want to process your fats, because fats are very unstable. And when they break down, they go from being very good for you to being very bad for you, to being very anti-inflammatory and very building, to being very toxic and pro-inflammatory. So you don't want to eat, or you don't want processed or cooked or fried fats, and you don't want to do that yourself. Cook or fry your fats. Butter, cook with butter. Butter is an incredibly valuable fat. In fact, one of the most important fats in the body for the intestine is a fat that's made by bacteria, and it's a fat that's deficient in people who have cancers or Crohn's disease or irritable or any other colon issues. And when I say cancers, I mean colon cancers. Colon cancer rates are going through the roof. It's a fat called butter, or technically called butyrate, which is in butter. So butter is a very, as problematic as vegetable oils are, that's how valuable butter is as a nutritional source and as a healthy fat. And then when you're doing the ketogenic diet, the most important part of the ketogenic diet is not the fat. Everybody likes the fat, and for good reason, because we love fat. It's the calories. And this comes as a shock to people, but for most of us on this call who are over the age of 50 or even 60, the less calories we eat, the healthier we will be. Obviously, you need a base level of calories. Calories represent energy. And the ketogenic diet is a low-calorie diet. It's 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day, and that always comes as a shock to people because most of us are eating 3 times that much. But you don't need that much, especially as you get older. Eating's for kids. Eating represents work for the body, and that's work that could be spent fighting cancer or building your leg, or building your bones, or building your muscles, or feeding your brain. So the question is, do you want to grow and repair, or you want to digest your food? As we get older, that really is the question we want to ask. So the ketogenic diet is a low-calorie diet, 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day. And that's a sweet spot where you want to try to be. At 1,000, 1,200 calories a day, getting your most of your calories from fats, or the majority of your calories from fats, and making sure that you're using the Mighty 90 essential nutrients. Calories, by the way, comes from the word calor, which means heat. Calories represent heat. And because they represent heat, the body has to work to cool things down. Electrical machinery doesn't like to be hot, and biochemical machinery even less so. Electrical machinery is very precise and very microscopically fine-tuned. The body is very precise and nanoscopically fine-tuned, more than a piece of electrical equipment. Just like your iPhone will shut off when it's hot, so will your body. Keeping your body cool is very important, and low calorie keeps your body cool. If you work on the digestive system and you work on the blood sugar system, you don't have to worry about cortisol and the adrenal glands and the thyroid. Although I want to talk on our next episode, I do want to talk about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, which are the stress nervous system and the relaxation nervous system, which are also very fundamental. But for now, just the digestive system and the blood sugar system. And the hardest thing that we'll have once, I'm sure this, I didn't say anything was complicated here. I'm sure everybody understood everything I said. This is not science, this is not medicine, this is just logic. The only thing that we have to fight when we talk to our clients about this, and what I really have to fight when I talk to my clients, or even sometimes when I talk to you guys, is this idea that it can't be this easy. That health has to be harder, is more complicated. That the idea of working with your foods, whether it's because of food toxins or whether it's because of sugar, is so important for health. That sounds almost like jargon, almost like the Boy Scouts. Like, you know, a scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, brave, clean, friendly, thrifty, reverent, and doesn't eat sugar and eats his vegetables. It sounds like that's, you know, it sounds Boy Scoutish. And that's the only thing we have to fight. You know, like I sometimes can, you know, you guys have all heard me speak before and you're all, you know, part of longevity and this all makes sense to you, but I can sometimes, even I can't see people, I can, in my imagination, when I'm talking to them on the phone, I can imagine their eyes rolling. Like, oh gosh, there goes Ben again, talking about food, talking about sugar, blah, 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 you know. And I know people are saying that because it sounds so simple. If we really understood the importance of the relationship between the digestive system and the blood sugar system, which are the food system, I hope everybody gets this. The digestive system and the blood sugar system are the food system for the most part. Sugar can go up for a couple of reasons, but for the most part, it's food. The digestive system and the blood sugar system are the food system. The only reasons why we buy into the medical model and take drugs when we have an autoimmune disease or an inflammatory disease, even though they don't help us, even though they suppress our immunity, they only suppress our inflammation. They don't help us with our problems because we don't realize how important the digestive system and the blood sugar system is. And the last thing I'll say is I went to during this whole pandemic thing that happened a couple of years ago. I don't even know what I want to call it. When it happened a couple of years ago, everybody's wearing the masks. You know, I went to the grocery store and there was this older couple. And they were wearing their masks, and the husband had a big old 62-ounce bottle of Pepsi and a 62-ounce bottle of Coke, and he was asking his wife, which one do you want? And he had no idea. He was wearing his mask because he didn't want to get the COVID, but he didn't associate what he was eating and drinking, what he's putting in his body with his immune system to the extent that he was wearing something that covers his breathing ability before he was making better food choices. The lines at Chick-fil-A and Taco Bell and McDonald's were longer than they ever were. In fact, those were the only places you could get food. That was the only acceptable food to eat, was the fast food, even though everybody's worried about getting injected and staying 6 feet apart and locking themselves in their house and doing all the things that they had to do so that they wouldn't get the virus. It's because we don't make the connection between what we're putting into our body and how our body is showing up. Like this, what we're putting into our body, how our body shows up. What we put into our body affects the digestive system, the blood sugar system. Our body then shows up. It's really simple as that. And that's the triangle of disease. And that was a lot longer than I intended to talk about, but there's tons more, and I kind of cut it short, believe it or not.
Believe it or not, yes, I hosted Pharmacist Ben several years ago, and we spent a whole 2.5 hours talking about the triangle of disease. And there was lots of questions now, and there are lots of questions. There are lots of questions then, there's lots of questions now. So
are they questions?
Can
I see the questions so I can pick them? Because I can't get to all of them.
Well, they're the way it's set up is they come to different
through different forums.
So,
okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
well, ask the ones, the most general ones. Pick out the most general ones.
So one of them wants to know, how long should a mother or baby be breastfed?
As long as you can. In fact, it's my personal belief that all adults should have their own breasts that they could drink from. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. That's a joke. But ideally, it's good stuff. AJ can't believe I said that. No, okay, I was just joking. But it's the best food. It's made to grow things, to build immunity, to develop the myelin sheath and the coating on the fatty coating on the nerves. It's just the most incredible food. So as long as you can, as long as the kid can do it. I mean, you know, he probably should stop by the time he's in high school. Just kidding. That's a joke too. I have a lot. Okay. I could tell all these jokes all day long here. No, I don't know how long. There's no real time, but the longer the better.
As long as possible.
as long as possible, and make sure you're breastfeeding and your baby has a rash. Guess what? You got a problem. If you're breastfeeding and your baby starts breaking out, you got a problem. If you're breastfeeding, the baby gets diarrhea or gas or some kind of digestive problem, colic or something, you got a problem. Correct that. And by you, I mean the mother, the breastfeeder has a problem. You got to work on your microbiome. You got to work on your elimination diet. You got to work on your digestive system. So as long as you can, and certainly not 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You'll notice, by the way, it's interesting. People who smoke, mothers who smoke, they can't breastfeed. And mothers who are toxic can't breastfeed either sometimes. Why? Because nature is so smart, it doesn't want the toxins coming into the baby. So it shuts off the breast milk. Sometimes when moms are under extreme duress, that'll happen as well. So the breast milk is super, super, super important, but the mom is responsible because the mom is now basically injecting things into the baby. So you got to be super, super careful. Stuff that mom is eating or food allergens or immune factors, those are all going to come into the baby.
All right, great answer. Great answer. The next question that I have for water daily, is that water only, or can it be tea or coffee?
You mean for fasting?
Just in general?
No, tea and coffee are diuretics. They'll cause you to lose water. Okay. Tea and coffee will cause you to lose water. So ideally, water with Beyond Tangy Tangerine. That's the best thing you could do, is a little bit of water. And let me tell you, just real quick, you guys, we're in the business. So we sometimes, sometimes you take for granted something that you see all the time. Just like I was saying earlier, the brain tunes things down that happen all the time. We take things for granted sometimes. We got a product called Beyond Tangy Tangerine that is the most incredible nuclear bomb of nutrition that anybody could ever take or anybody could ever buy. You can't get that in a health food store. You can't get that on the internet. One of the things we have an embarrassment of riches at Youngevity. We got so many incredible products that it's easy to forget how powerful and some of these individual ones are, like the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Do not underestimate the power of that product, Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And even if somebody doesn't want to do longevity or doesn't want to do nutritional supplements for Christmas or their birthday, give them a Beyond Tangy Tangerine, especially if they're older. The older people tend to be really malnourished. Everybody's malnourished these days, but older people are especially older people in nursing homes. The greatest gift you could ever give somebody in a nursing home is a jug of Beyond Tangy Tangerine. So if you're qualifying with Beyond Tangy Tangerine, you got extra ones, hand them out, give them to people. Or travel with them in your car. I know they got the little packets, but if you don't want to deal with the little packets, just travel around with the powder and just scoop it out and put it in somebody's water bottle. And don't do too much all at once, because there's so much nutritional value. It'll pass through your intestine. You won't absorb it all. It'll pass through your intestine. You won't get the value of it. And also, it'll pull water with it, and you'll end up with cramping or sometimes diarrhea. And that's one of the things that happens when people take too much Beyond Tangy Tangerine and then they object to it. They're taking too much. That's not a reason to not take it. That's a reason to take less. So if you notice that somebody cramps or bloats after they take it, have them cut back on the dose. If they notice they don't like the taste, cut back on the dose. There's a sweet spot for absorption, and there's a sweet spot for taste. Also, I like taking Beyond Tangy Tangerine with meals. If you take your Beyond Tangy Tangerine with meals, it'll help you digest your food. And you'll get better absorption of the Beyond Tangy Tangerine if you take it with meals. So I personally, I think people should be sipping on it with their food. So back to your water question. Water is itself very, very important, but every once in a while, when you're doing your half gallon to a gallon a day, which is where we should be, you want to put some BTT in there.
All right. Absolutely.
Let me say one last thing. The more water you're drinking, the more you're going to excrete vitamin C and the B complex and your electrolytes. So the more water you drink, the more BTT you need.
All right. Let's go to AJ. AJ has his hand up with some questions as well. And how much time do you have, Pharmacist Ben?
A few more minutes.
All right.
Fantastic, Ben, because in a few more minutes, we only have 12 more questions.
Okay.
So,
questions. I like to answer. You notice I give you the mechanisms here. I want everybody to understand, number one, how this whole thing happens, but number two, how simple this is. That's why I always spend a lot of time giving you the mechanisms and explaining to you how the whole thing is put together. And that way, number one, you can see how simple everything is, but also you can start to explain to people. So you can start telling people. We want the whole world to understand how simple it is to reverse chronic degenerative disease, how simple it is to understand how the body breaks down, and how simple it is to help the body recover using the longevity supplements, using the whole longevity protocol.
And actually, both the questions that I have you answered in this show.
Okay.
One of the coaches asked, she wants to know how to treat a skin rash. She has a potential client that has a very itchy rash all over her body.
That's great. That is awesome news. Let me tell you why. Because the skin is where she's seeing the problem, but she's also experiencing breakdown and inflammation inside the body that she's not seeing. She can use her skin as a metric, as a test, as a barometer for how successful she is at her at her strategies for dealing with her internal issues. If she didn't have the skin problem, she wouldn't know. So the skin, when you have a skin issue, that's a barometer for how well you're doing when you start to take corrective measures, how on track or off track you are. Itching on the skin and redness on the skin should always be regarded as histamine or other immune factors. Itching is especially associated with histamine, but redness is technically called vasodilation. What does vaso mean? Vaso. Vascular, blood vessel, circulation. What does dilate mean?
Spreading apart.
Open apart. So vasodilation is opening up. Redness on the cheeks, redness on the body are always, redness on the face anywhere, redness anywhere you can see, are always the sign of an immune reaction. So being the smart healthcare professional or healthcare coach that you are, AJ, why would redness be part of the immune reaction? Why would redness anywhere mean an immune response, a defensive response, a protective response? See the gears turning. I see the gears turning. What is redness? Redness is perfusion. It's blood. Okay. Right? Okay. So whenever you see redness, you're seeing blood. So why would blood be part of the immune response? Why would the body flood an area that is immune activated with blood?
Because there's an invader that the white blood
What's in the blood? What's in the blood?
So the blood cells, are trying
all
to
of immune cells. They're all coming in through the blood. Remember, the blood is delivering the immune factors, so the body will expand. The blood vessels will expand, and blood will come rushing to the area. Number one, to deliver the white blood cells and the antibodies, but also to clean everything out, to flush everything out. So when you see redness appear, you have an immune response. Now, that should just be common sense, you would think, but it's not. I have so many people who have a condition called rosacea. What is rosacea in Latin? Red. Rosacea means red, like a rose. And they don't know what to do. And their dermatologist doesn't know what to do. Redness means the blood is trying to clean something out, so it always means an immune response. This gal will notice that she's having an immune response in response, or having an immune reaction in response to something she's doing. So she'll notice there are certain foods that make her flare up. And just like the skin manifestations on the skin are your best friend, flare-ups are your best friend. Because flare-ups give you real-time information. When something flares up, you just have to say, what did I just do an hour ago, half an hour ago, 2 hours ago, recently? It helps to write things down, but real-time information or flare-ups can give you real-time information, so you'll notice things even before you write it down, if it happens quick enough. So this lady is dealing with a histamine response, an immune response. Likely most of it is histamine. Where does histamine and immune reactants come from?
The gut.
Unless she's an IV drug user, which we're going to assume she's not. Okay? They come from the gut, which means all the digestive support. You cannot ask me a question that does not backtrack to the digestive system and the blood sugar system. Almost to the point where you're going to want to throw up, because I've said the digestive system and the blood sugar system so many times. You're going to, right? You're going to, not that again. But it is. That's what it is. It's the digestive system and the blood sugar system. You can't ask me something that doesn't relate to that. I'll show you how, but you can just assume that it is. In her case, itchiness, rashes, sensitivities. Human skin should never be sensitive. Human skin is designed to be resilient, to be a barrier, to be protective against the environment. It's not supposed to be sensitive. So people who say they have sensitive skin, it's not a skin problem. It's a blood problem. And the blood problem starts off at the level of the intestine.
Okay, real
Okay.
quick, again, because you definitely explained that very well earlier, how to fix the gut, so they can rewind.
Okay.
Lenora wants to know, can she substitute Ocean's Gold for levothyroxine?
No. They're not, they don't do the same thing. I mean, it's not like one's better. It's not like one's better than the other. They're two different things. It's apples and oranges. So when you have a thyroid problem, you have a gland problem. It's the structure. Thyroid glands are located in your neck area. You got two of them, the thyroid glands. So actually, you don't have two of them. You got two low. You don't have two thyroid. You got two parts to it. So you got two parts of the thyroid gland. So the thyroid gland is the organ, the structure that secretes thyroid hormone. When you have a thyroid gland problem, you're not making thyroid hormone. So if you have a thyroid gland problem, whether it's an autoimmune problem or usually it's autoimmune, usually it's Hashimoto's, you have a problem with the structure. But because they can't do anything for the structure, because the problem's not in the structure, the problem's in the toxicity that's coming in through the blood. Say that again. When you have hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, you have a gland structure problem. The body's attacking the structure, so it's not working well. But the problem is not located or based in the structure. It's only showing up in the structure. This is why nobody can fix Hashimoto's. Let me say that again. Nobody can fix Hashimoto's. No doctor on planet Earth can fix Hashimoto's. It's not possible. What they can do is they can give you thyroid hormone. That's why if you have Hashimoto's, they give you Synthroid or levothyroxine, because they can't fix the thyroid. They can only give you the hormone that's not being made by the dysfunctional thyroid. You see what I'm saying here? Let me tell you why that's important. Hormones are supposed to fluctuate. They're supposed to be responsive to the environment. The intelligence of the body is mediated or controlled by the hormones. It's the hormones that are the manifestation of the intelligence. And when I say intelligence, I mean responsiveness. It gets hot, your body gets cold. Your body gets hot, it makes it cold. Your body moves, or is hyperactive, it slows things down. Your body's inflamed, anti-inflammation kicks in. It's always adjusting. That's what makes the body such a magnificent survival system that survived for millions upon millions of years, because it's responsive to the environment, and this responsiveness is controlled by hormones. This is why hormone replacement is so problematic, is because when you give hormones, the hormone level's like this. The hormone level's supposed to go like this. Can you see my hands? It's supposed to go up and down and up and down, but when you take hormone, it's like this. What's worse, when you take thyroid hormone orally, it's like this. I don't know if you can see my hand. It goes up, you take the orally, and it goes down. There's never, a normal amount, and there's never a responsive amount. It's always up and down. So it's a very, very poor solution. But it's the only solution they have, because the problem's not in the thyroid. Now you know where the problem is. There is no Hashimoto's without a digestive issue. Take that to the bank. There is no Hashimoto's without dysglycemia. Take that to the bank. That's because Hashimoto's is at the tip of the triangle, and also cortisol issues. So blood sugar and same thing that we talk about for everything else, digestive and blood sugar. As far as Ocean's Gold goes, Ocean's Gold, as well as, Ocean's Gold, we'll say, and also to a certain extent, Fucoid Z, contain a mineral element, really, that is the activator or the battery for thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone is a little battery that activates it. That battery is called iodine. So Ocean's Gold will activate thyroid hormone. The thyroid hormone itself is the hormone. However, there's a slight wrinkle here, and that is you have two forms of thyroid hormone. You've got weak thyroid hormone, and you've got strong thyroid hormone, or some people say inactive, and some people say active thyroid hormone. They call T3 and T4. You may have heard those terms, T3 and T4. T3 is the powerful stuff, the active stuff, and T4 has maybe some effects, but it's really considered a precursor to T3. T4 is converted, it's by the way, this idea of having a weaker form and a stronger form is one of the ways the body protects itself. So you don't want to have a bunch of thyroid hormone coming out, otherwise things go crazy, because thyroid hormone is like putting your foot on the gas. In fact, there's a disease where people have too much thyroid activity, and it's the most miserable health challenge you could think of. So the body does this really cool thing where it has a storage form of the hormone that has to be activated. And that storage form assures that there will always be a little bit of thyroid hormone present, but when it's really needed, all you got to do is activate it. The body doesn't have to make it, just has to activate it. The reason this is important is because T4 is activated into T3 in the intestine. And if you're dealing with intestinal problems, that's not going to happen as effectively. If you're dealing with SIBO or dysbiosis, that's not going to happen as effectively. And this is where the triangle starts to circulate. And this is also important because Synthroid, or levothyroxine, is T4. It's the weak stuff. It's not the strong stuff. So if you're not activating it at the level of the intestine because you haven't dealt with your intestinal problems, you're not going to get the benefits of the medication. So if you are going to take, if you have hypothyroidism, the only answer, and really you should be working on the first 2 points of the triangle disease. That's where you should be working, and using nutritional supplementation, including Ocean's Gold and Fucoid Z, which I like better than the Z Radical. If you are dealing with a hypothyroid issue, if you're dealing with hypothyroidism, you're not going to be able to deal with it through drugs, through T4. You want to deal with it at the level of the digestive system and the nutrition system. But if you have to take a drug, ask for T3, not T4. Ask for T3 because that's the thyroid hormone. You still aren't going to get the benefits, of correcting the glandular dysfunction or the autoimmune disease, or the autoimmune problem, but you'll be able to at least have a little bit more thyroid hormone activity than if you do just Synthroid. Yes, sir.
Wait a second. So you're saying that no matter how much you clean your body, no matter how much you repair your gut, no matter how much you repair your blood and the other points of the triangle, you're not going to be able to repair your thyroid to the point where you're.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
So
No, I didn't say that.
We need to know how to make the thyroid work again.
If you want to work on everything, but while you're working on everything, you still want thyroid hormone replacement, ask for T3. Okay. And there are forms of T3 or armor thyroid, actually.
So what's your protocol to help us get the thyroid working again, you think?
You could tell me.
Fix the gut, fix the blood.
Blood sugar.
Blood sugar. Okay.
Treat yourself like a diabetic. And by the way, just because the doctor said to you your blood sugar is normal doesn't mean it's healthy. Okay? Normal blood sugar just means you're not a diabetic. And this is really important when it comes to doctors. Doctors are trained in disease. They're not trained in health. They're trained in pathogenesis. They're not trained in salutogenesis. Have you heard of salutogenesis? Okay, guess what? New word. And guess what? You'll start to hear it more and more. One of the things about longevity and about Doc is he's always 20 years ahead of the curve. One time I asked him about that, and he was like, yeah, I'm just used to it. I was like, Doc, does it bother you that 20 years after you've been talking about something, all of a sudden, it becomes the mainstream thing? Like gluten was a classic example. He says, no, he was just used to dealing with it. But here's another, and that's one of the things when you start to talk about these things. Trust me, you're going to hear about the triangle of disease in the coming years. You'll hear, just like you heard about the microbiome in the coming years. You will. It's going to be, because these are all logical and they make sense and they help people. And it just takes a while for the mainstream to catch on. So here's something else you're going to hear in the next coming years. A concept called salutogenesis. Salute. What does salute mean? Health. Salute for your health, right? Salute.
Beginnings of health?
Yes, pathogenesis is how disease begins. Salutogenesis is how health begins. Doctors are not trained in salutogenesis. They're trained in pathogenesis. They're trained in telling you about your disease. They're not trained in telling you about health. We've given them the responsibility. Nature abhors a vacuum, and we've created a vacuum by abdicating responsibility. So now we have doctors telling us we got to put our seatbelts on. And doctors are telling us that we've got to, get on the treadmill. And doctors are telling us that we got to meditate. And doctors are telling us about things that we should be doing ourselves because we've abdicated responsibility for doing our lifestyle kinds of behaviors. But we don't need a doctor to tell us to put our seatbelt on or to tell us not to smoke or tell us that we have to exercise. These are all common sense things. Salutogenesis is something that we can all do. The medical model is not equipped for salutogenesis. It's equipped to take care of emergencies. That's really where it excels. We've given it the role of fixing our chronic long-term degenerative diseases or of making us healthy, but that's not what it's supposed to be doing. The medical system is supposed to do what it does best, which is stitch you up if you get hit by a car, or if a rock falls on your head, or if you fall off your bike, or if you trip and you break your leg or whatever it is. That's when you have a medical model, and the medical model excels at that. So everything boils down to, as you said, as we said, AJ, the digestive system and the blood sugar system. Get on one of the healthy packs. If you can't afford it, if you want to help somebody, you want to give them a gift, get them some Beyond Tangy Tangerine. It is that important. It is that life-changing. It is the most expensive boost that the average person, not necessarily people on this call or people who are participating big time in their health, will be able to appreciate this, but most people aren't like that. Most people have no idea what's possible. We are leaving health on the table. We're leaving longevity on the table. We've set the bar so low on what's acceptable for our day-to-day life. Again, not people in this room, but for our customers and our clients. They have no idea the energy they can have. They have no idea that they can get off all their meds. They have no idea that the pounds can drop off them, or their chronic degenerative disease can reverse itself, or their heart disease, the progression of their heart disease can slow down. They don't necessarily need to have that gallbladder taken out or their heart bypass surgery done. Or there's so many options here that are available to people. And the greatest gift we can give to people is showing them that. Even if it's something like giving them Beyond Tangy Tangerine, all of a sudden they say, oh my God, I can't believe that. I have so much energy now. How many times have you heard that, Sportus Nutritionosis? I have so much energy now, right? I'm off all my meds. This is what's possible. This is what longevity is about. And I know I've been saying this a lot, and I really want to reinforce this. Becca and AJ, you can second and third this. We're looking for business builders. We're looking for people who want to go out and spread this message that says we are so much more powerful than we're being told, and that we have so much more vitality and health and joie de vivre available to us that we don't know, that we're leaving on the table because we've set the bar so low on what's acceptable, especially as we get older. So if that sounds cool to you, we can teach you how to do it. You can make money at the same time. And by the way, you can write off your home office, and you can write off your pens and your gas and all the other stuff. And it's a great way to make a living. A lot of folks are making a really good living, and you can make a positive difference in the world. You can help change the world at the most basic and fundamental level there is, which is the level of good health and nutrition. Thank you so much, Rebecca and AJ and Doc. Thank you for everything.
God bless you. We love you, Pharmacist Ben.
Thank you all.
Well, thank you, Pharmacist Ben. And yes, folks, if you can resonate with any of this and you want to help people with solutions, we're looking for those who are really wanting to help people. So if that is you, then make sure that you, one, get back with the person that shared this program with you, or if there's no one to thank, get a hold of us. We have a great team. You can reach us at 855-949-3377. That's 855-949-3377, or by emailing us at info@dailywithdoc.com. And one thing that I love about our team, Pharmacist Ben, is we have training system in place to help people, so you're not just out on your own, which is one of the biggest hurdles, I think, when starting something new, is where do I go for training? How do I know what to say? How do I know what to do? Well, we have a system that helps you figure that all out. That's attainable on your own time. and a team that's available to support that as well. So
Let me just,
Pharmacist Ben, another hour and a half. Yes.
I'm also doing a Super Saturday in my lab next Saturday. If you're in Colorado, come to the
next Saturday.
Next Saturday, that's the 12th, right?
The
12th. The 13th. 13th.
13th.
13th. Yeah, Saturday the 13th. It's at my lab, 11640 Teller Street, Broomfield, 80020. But it'll be also Zoomed. But if you're in Colorado,
Perfect.
I'd love to see you.
Absolutely fantastic. So if you're interested in getting information about how you can either attend physically or by Zoom, make sure that you give us an email at info@dailywithdoc.com and sign up for our newsletter, dailywithdoc.com. You can sign up for the newsletter. We will be sending out information about that as well. So we are here for you and empowering information that allows you to make choices, intelligent, knowledgeable choices on what you can do.
One thing. Can I say one thing? I've been meaning to do this.
Go ahead.
I want to give a shout out to Phyllis Anderson. I've known her since the very, very beginning, and she's been just the sweetest and the most kind and patient longevity representative. Just such a great job helping folks, and always has that sweet smile on her face. So thank you so much, Phyllis.
Yes.
Great to know you for all these years.
Thank you, Ben. Right back at you.
Yeah, Phyllis and Andy were two of my first mentors in longevity.
Mine
So
as well.
I am honored to be able to share their love for people by allowing them to be part of our Zoom and just give that presence, that positive vibration that comes with, like you said, Phyllis's kind smile.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Truly my pleasure.
Well, I'm sorry.
Sportus Nutrition Osseous is nice too. And Marilyn and I don't see where.
And Marilyn and Ruth Ellen.
I don't mean to call
and
her.
Doc.
And Doc.
And Albert.
Albert and the zebra.
Yeah,
and
we've got a great team. We have a great team. Yes, Marty the zebra. But we wouldn't be able to do this or wouldn't be here because of the man that is in my top right-hand corner, and that is Dr. Joel. Thank you so much, Doc, for starting this crusade, taking what a lot of people would have just given up on because of the resistance at so many different levels. You kept going, and you have been a trooper and just created this crusade that allows us to be able to continue on your legacy and sharing the knowledge that has been found through your research, published in your books, which, folks, if you're interested in Dr. Wallach's books, you can find them at drjwallach.com. That is drjwallach.com. But thank you, Doc, very much.
Well, thank you. And thank you, each and every one of you. We're a family. And I'm going to be doing a big interview, 125 million people on this coming Tuesday, the 9th. Okay, at 10 p.m. Pacific time.
Yes.
10 p.m. Pacific time. The 9th, Tuesday the 9th. And that's
yes,
with George and Ori. So it's really great.
Yep, on coast to coast. Yeah, on coast to coast. So
yes,
folks, you can
keep on going. We keep on going. And thank you, Pharmacist Ben. You did a fabulous job.
Thank you, Doc.
And it's one of those things where the team has to get bigger and bigger and bigger to connect with so many people around the world. We're in 80 countries, so it's very good. We're kept busy.
Yes, we are. And Marilyn kept her super busy today as she does dictation into the chat, which is one of the big benefits of being live with us in the Zoom. And again, you can join us Monday through Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific. Yes, it's 1:30 Pacific right now. But she does a great job with the dictation and putting everything in there so you can read it, take screenshots. No, you cannot chat, and for privacy reasons. So thank you, Marilyn, for all that you do. Thank you, Phyllis, for all that you do and have been doing for so many years. And Ruth Ellen, who is our executive production manager who's keeping us all organized and doing the stream, making sure that it stays connected, and AJ, who's monitoring all the different areas that we are streaming to, bringing in questions. Phyllis had questions as well. Folks, it's a team effort. We work together. And if you want to be part of a team that works together to help society, to help humanity, then that's the reason why you tuned into this program today. Give
Thank
us
you,
a call,
Becca.
855-949-3377. Thank you, Dr. Wallach.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much again. We will see you next week. Thank you, Pharmacist Ben. Great information as always. Love and appreciate both of the two gentlemen on my right and left on this screen, Pharmacist Ben Fuchs and Dr. Joel Wallach. Powerhouse, folks, of knowledge coming from medical background and putting into edible information that we can utilize. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach.
This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach.
This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health. Dr. Joel Wallach. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences, and the individual results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.